Welcome out to the show, guys. This is Studio 321. This is your podcast host, Eddie B. So, Karoline Leavitt, that's Donald Trump's new press secretary. She held her first press room briefing this week, and it was kind of cool. She actually raised a lot of eyebrows. So, anyways, some reporters were questioning her on the fact that Donald Trump had frozen a bunch of money that was going out, budgeting money for different programs and stuff, and they basically put a freeze on that to find out, where this stuff was going and what it was actually being used for before they sent it out. And, I can understand that, if you were starting a new business or actually, let's say you went and you bought another business, I think the first thing you would do is go in and look at all their spending and allocation for money and look over the bills and find out, what's wasteful, what's not. So, that makes a lot of sense. The administration is being kind of scrutinized for, what programs have they frozen? Is it going to hurt basic needs programs? They basically made pretty clear that none of the basic needs programs are going to be affected. The welfare programs, things like that. However, Karoline Leavitt did bring up some examples of things that were frozen, and it was kind of hilarious, actually. So I'm going to give you a couple wacky programs, that money was allocated for, and some from the past as well. And then I'm going to explain to you also what actually happens with the money that's supposed to go to these programs. So the Office of Management and Budget, along with DOGE, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk, they've been working together trying to, root out some of these wasteful spending programs. Now, I've gotten some arguments online with people. It's kind of crazy, actually. I had a lady argue with me last week, talking about this subject, and she was saying that she's an anti-Trumper and an anti-Musk, and saying how they're taking away money from the government that our politicians need to spend on things, and that just kind of stuff just leaves me shaking my head because. This is our tax money. This is our tax money that goes out, money out of my pocket, your pocket, that goes out and just gets wasted on nothing. And half the time it just ends up back in some shady account somewhere getting spent on vacations. So anyways, let's go down the line on a couple of those things. So she brought up at the press conference $50 million for condoms in Gaza.
The past 4 years, we've seen the Biden administration spend money like drunken sailors. It's a big reason we've had an inflation crisis in this country, and it's incumbent upon this administration to make sure, again, that every penny is being accounted for honestly.
Why impose this pause with so little notice? Why not give organizations more time to plan for the fact that they are about to lose, in some cases, really crucial federal funding, at least for a period of time?
There was notice. It was the executive order that the president signed. There's also a freeze on hiring, as you know, a regulatory freeze, and there's also a freeze on foreign aid. And this is, again, incredibly important to ensure that this administration is taking into consideration how hard the American people are working. And their tax dollars actually matter to this administration. Just during this pause, DOGE and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. DOGE and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money.
Okay. And that kind of got everybody like, what? So, $6 million to boost Egyptian tourism spent by the American government. Some of the wackier ones. There was this is one from the past, but this is a prime example. National Institute of Health spent $2.6 million to teach Chinese prostitutes to drink responsibly while on the job. Now think about that. So, $2 million to encourage Indonesians to eat American soybeans. You hear all this, like the $1 million for shrimp running on a treadmill experiments. I know Trump had talked in 2020 about the $3 million allocated to a particular group to study the mating habits of bluefish in the Gulf of Mexico, which is actually now the Gulf of America. But anyways, so when you think about this stuff, it just leaves you scratching your head like, like it's complete insanity. But here's the truth. That money, 90% of the time, doesn't actually end up going to what it says. And it's actually a giant cash grab. So this is what happens. Let's say I had $50 million in my government department for a budget, right? Well, if I don't spend that $50 million in the budget period, when the next budget comes up, they'll give me less money. So I have to spend it all. So let's say I've spent $30 million of that 50. Okay. Well, I've got 20 million left over. I need to spend it on something. Otherwise, I don't get the money the next time the budget comes up. So what I do is I take that $20 million and I allocate it to a particular group that I might research up or find or whatever. Let's say they're going to study windmills in Alaska. So I tell this group, listen, I'm going to give you $20 million to study windmills in Alaska. And of course, they're going to be happy because, they get money for their, whatever their business is, and trucks and equipment, all this stuff. And, it funds their paychecks and all that stuff, right? So they're super happy. Well, but I also make a deal with them on the side. So out of that $20 million, they're actually going to get $2 million to study windmills in Alaska. And the other $18 million, they're going to donate back to nonprofit companies or charities of my selection, you see. So, and what'll probably end up what'll probably end up happening in that situation is I will own 2 or 3 of those nonprofits. So that money, that $20 million, they use 2 for studying windmills in Alaska, and 18 of it gets donated and funneled back to nonprofits and charities of my choice, which I actually own some of those charities or nonprofits. You see, so what I've ultimately done is the money's gone in a big circle and it's come back to me or my agency. Or let's say I'm of a particular political affiliation, maybe I could have that money donated to that particular political affiliation, whether it be Democrat or Republican or whatever. So that's the dirty secret about a lot of those programs. The money, very little bit of that money actually goes to studying whatever it is that they initially said they were going to study, and half of it's garbage anyways. Now, one of the major, and I believe this is one of the largest government waste programs is, okay, so the government owns a lot of empty buildings around the country, right? Actually, I believe they said between 70 and 77,000 empty government buildings around the country. Now, these are vacant, not being used, for whatever reason. However, with our regular government standards, they have to be maintained. So, the grass has to be cut. They have to be kept up to, code and living standards and stuff like that. So annually, that takes up about $25 billion in money for maintenance on these 70 to 77,000 buildings. So that's a perfect example of just government bloat and spending. Here's a building sitting over here, haven't been used in 3-4 years. Nobody's in it. No, it's not being used, but it has to be maintained. Electric's got to be on, grass cut, building kept up to standard, painted, all that stuff. So you're talking major money, $25 billion in maintenance annually. Okay. So, numbers like that, look, you can go on any of these watchdog sites, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these things, of these, wasteful spending allocations. Hundreds of them. I've just named 5 or 6, but think about the amount of money that we're talking. 25 billion just on vacant government buildings alone. You're talking about, hundreds of billions of dollars every year. And, look, I don't mind spending a little money on certain things or helping out this or helping out that cause. Don't mind any of that, However, right now, our government, and we're just not in a position to be doing that. So, they're looking to go in and cut out all of this spending. Of course, now what is that going to do? Does that cost a lot of government jobs? It will. It will. They have offered government employees basically 80% of their annual income as a severance package if they go ahead and resign. Which, if I'm one of those employees, I think I would take that deal, because here's the thing. If they're looking to cut your department anyways, and they're offering me a severance package of 80% of 1 year's pay to go ahead and resign, I'm taking that, because if I don't, within a certain amount of time, you're just gonna get laid off anyways, because it looks like your department's getting the axe. Now, something that also Trump did this week on that front was he's been talking about, if you remember under Biden, they hired 80,000 new IRS agents, which they claimed was to go after the top, 5% of earners, which that was a bunch of bull, because you don't need that. You don't need that many for that. But Trump was basically saying this week that he's looking to go ahead and get rid of those 80,000 agents and cut $20 billion from the IRS annual budget, which, obviously the administrators in the IRS are complaining about that, saying it wouldn't be able to do its job effectively. But the truth is, if they cut the government bloat and they cut down the size of the government, we're not gonna need all these people. We're not. They can go off, they're accountants and stuff. They can go off and get jobs in the private sector, and quit chasing around waiters and waitresses trying to get your tax money. So yeah, it's looking real good. Just a lot of stuff going, man. It's hard to be honest. It's hard to keep up. Every day there's so much stuff coming out. It's hard to keep up, and but I'll do the best I can. I'll try to get you all the information I can. But anyways, guys, if you like, please like and subscribe to my videos. This is Studio 321. This is your podcast host, Eddie B, coming to you from 321. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Have a good night.